Hi, this is Jonathan with Fishing with Faith Outdoors. Welcome back to the channel. And today I want to talk about how to cast a bait caster. Okay, so y'all stay tuned and we'll get right with it. Alright, so bait caster. So how you cast a bait caster? It's really simple. Okay. And trust me, if I can learn how to do it, anybody can learn how to do it, okay? All right, so what you got here, there's your tension knob, okay? And there's your brake, all right? So the first thing you wanna learn, and two, you need to learn this, do this with what you're gonna be throwing, either a Texas rig, crankbaits. I would learn to do it with a Texas rig or a jig, okay? And just get you matter of fact, the best way is to tie you a weight on the end of your line, one of those sinker weights, maybe a 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce. That's the best thing to do. That way you won't worry about your hook getting hooked in grass or anything else around your yard when you're doing this, or you know, getting hooked up in the water. You practice in the water. So just tie you some kind of sinker weight on the end of your line, okay? All right. So the first thing I want to do is, with your bait caster, is turn the brakes all the way to max. Wherever your max is, turn it all the way to max, okay? The second thing you need to do is tighten your tension knob down. All right, so we're going to tighten the tension knob down, okay, where this bait barely drops. I don't know. Get back here where you can see it. All right, now I'm going to turn this tension knob where my bait barely moves, okay? Do a little bit. All right, there it goes, right there. I want to tighten that down to where your weight or lure, whatever you got on the end of your line, barely moves, like that right there, okay? All right, so the next thing you need to do is cast it, all right? So, and what this is going to do, this is going to keep you from bird nesting so bad. The brake slows the reel down, okay? So this is your, like a brake in a car, okay? This is your gas pedal. So you can free this up like you're mashing the gas on your car as fast as you want, or back off, you know, tighten it as slow as you want, okay? Is that making any sense? Okay, so the tighten it, the slower the spool is going to move. The looser, the more it's going to move. You tighten your brakes up, it allows it to how far the line is going to go out. As you cast it, it's going to slow it down. Okay, so the less brake you have, the more freely this thing is going to spin out. No matter how tight or how loose you got it, this brake is going to keep the spool from being just spinning freely, or it's going to slow it down. So the looser you have it, the more free the spool has to spin on your cast. The more brake, the less freedom the spool has on the cast. Okay, so I'm going to cast this and I'm going to show you. So tighten everything up, and like I said, you want your lure, when you hit the button, just barely fall. That might be a little much, but you'll get the feel of it, okay? All right, so I'm going to cast it. All right, so here it goes. You see that? I don't know if y'all saw that or not. No bird's nest. Okay, so with this tight, it's not allowing this spool, and with the brakes all the way down, it's not allowing this spool to freely move as you will when you get more used to casting it. All right, when you're doing this, you need to do this in the yard if you have room to do it, or go to your local pond or lake and just practice casting this. And what you need to be doing while you're doing this is practice letting your thumb ride that spool. You don't want it up against it real tight. You just want to barely feel it when you cast it. And as you get used to casting it and figuring out your best settings on your bait caster to be able to control it, to keep from bird nesting, you'll get more familiar on what you like. Okay, I had to figure out what I like. I like it a little bit looser than most people, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm flipping, I like it loose. I'm casting, I'll just combine the brakes and tension knob on where I can cast it and it fling out there as far as I want it, and I don't have to do a whole lot of thumbing. But you need to learn how to thumb it, okay? That's going to be very important, especially if you're flipping. I got a video on flipping, okay? And I'll put it in the description below to show you how to flip. All right, so again, you need to learn how to thumb, okay? So when you cast this out there, thumb it all the way. Just let your thumb barely ride the spool. Get used to doing that in these tight settings. Then right before the lure hits the water, I mean just a second before it hits the water, thumb it, like press it. Okay, and that's going to keep it, if you do have the spool loose, that's going to keep it from bird's nesting in a loose setting. Okay, all right, that's how everybody does it. You know, they'll get used to throwing the bait caster, then they'll get it up looser where they can, you know, do more with it, and they just use a thumb as a brake. Okay, so that just takes something to get used to. So, all right, so here we go, one more time. I'm gonna throw it out there, and I know you can't see that, but I thumbed it right before we hit the water, and I just kind of let my thumb ride that string in that tight setting. Okay. All right, so we're gonna do it one more time. We'll throw it out there. See, in the tight setting, I got my hand completely away from it. No bird's nest. All right, and you see I got it out there too. And I got, you know, I'm throwing a 3/8 ounce jig, so it's going to pull the line. All right, so get used to doing that. All right, just go out in the yard, lake, pond, whatever. Like I said, put your brakes on max, tighten your tension knob to where your bait barely moves. You want it just to barely move, like that right there, okay? And just cast it with that. And if you do get a little bird's nest on here, it won't be as bad as it will when it's loose. And picking out a bird's nest, it can be frustrating. I have cut a lot of line loose before, but there's a certain way you pick it out that you can save your line. It just takes patience and learning and knowing what it does when that bird's nest wraps, and that's just something you got to learn over time. I can't exactly explain it, but that line just gets, you cast it enough and start loosening up, you'll see what I'm talking about, I promise. But there's a certain way that line wraps up that if you pick it in the opposite, or trying to get my words straight here, you pick it in a certain way, you can get it out. Okay, it just takes a little patience and not get so frustrated and throw your bait caster in the water and never touch it again. I promise you, learn how to use this, learn how to cast this. This will help you in so much in bass fishing or any fishing. You know, this thing right here they made this for a reason. They didn't make a bait caster just because some high-tech guru or some big-time Bass Pro fishermen wanted this kind of reel. They made this for a reason, and I understand now why they made it. It just makes it so much easier on certain baits and techniques that you can't do on a spinning rod or a Zepco 33. That's why they have bait casters. Okay, you don't go to the hardware store and buy a 2-pound hammer to drive a 16-pound penny nail. Or you don't go to the hardware store and buy a finishing hammer to drive a 16 penny nail. They make certain hammers for certain nails. Okay? All right. So they make certain fishing rods for a lot of different techniques. All right? So, but like I said, learn that. And as far as your drag goes, why I got this here on your drag, you need to set your drag to where when a fish bites, you don't want it super loose, but you want it loose enough. See how I pull, I don't know if y'all can see that. See how I'm pulling it? It's not taking a lot of effort. Okay, so you want your drag set about, I can't remember exactly, I think it's like almost half or a little over half of the pound test of your line. I never really kind of understood how I just felt it. Okay, so when I hook set a fish, and especially the Texas rig, I hook set a fish and I hook set it, you want a little bit of a stout hook set on a Texas rig or a jig to get it penetrated through that plastic or past the weed guard on a jig that it gets in the fish's mouth. And if I pull drag doing that, either I'm setting way too hard or my drag's way too soft. And I just want to kind of, you know, I don't want to snatch it like I'm fixing to rip his head. I just want, you know, a little quick, you know, side little jerk like that. Just boom, and you got him, you know. And if I pull drag doing it, I got my drag too loose, or again, I'm snatching too hard to pull drag. So what I want the drag to do when I hook set is when that fish takes off, it can pull some drag, you know, but it, you know, so it won't be snatching hard. If it snatches hard and your rod's bent over, it's gonna break the line. Okay, if it's a big enough fish, it'll pop your line if you don't have your drag set properly. So like I said, that's something you got to play with, get familiar with as well. There's videos on YouTube that have a better can probably explain it a little better on your drag, but for me and what I do and for what I've experienced, that's how I set my drag. But anyway, I hope that helps. Again, learn to use your thumb. That's the biggest thing you need to do. Learn to use your thumb. You're going to need it, okay? And like I said, just tighten everything out down. Set your tension knob where your bait barely drops, and just cast, practice in the yard. And again, that's how I do mine. That's how I learned. And I hope this helps again. And thank y'all for watching. And we'll see y'all at the next one. And God bless. Oh, before I forget, please like and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions, please leave your comments in the comment section below, and I'll answer them the best I can. And anything else you would like to see on this channel, anything you'd like to see me do, any specifics, I mean, please leave your comments. I greatly appreciate it. And thanks for watching again, and God bless.